Alright, Joe Mara here, back again with another round of this stuff here, me sitting in the basement and talking for just about a fair amount of time. Although I will say that I think right now, for the time that I have, this is probably the most candid it's probably going to get. I don't know how much sound from the upstairs you may be able to hear, but I know this microphone can pick up a fair amount. So I'm just here now. Why I do mention candid is because typically, at least for the past few that you may have heard, if you tuned into the previous versions of these uncut recordings, I was doing these at some point in the evening just before heading to bed. But now it's still daylight out, and I think it's about 6... No, it's actually 7. Let me actually check the time. I've got my phone beside me. It's about 7:07, and in just a few minutes I'll actually be having dinner. So this particular one might come out a little bit shorter, but hey, a shorter period of candid could probably beat out just about any kind. Although then again, just to tell you, everything, I guess, all the previous recordings I've done, they've all been pretty candid. Only because, there hasn't been any particular script or something that I've been looking off of, like a guideline. Trust me, it's purely been just candid recording. Completely. Just I think of the stuff off the top of my head. So every single natural pause you may hear, natural, unnatural, weird, whatever the case may be, you're going to hear it. So just like now, I'm not sure, actually, because I've got some headphones on, so when I was coming down, I could still hear some sounds from upstairs, so I just don't know how much of that will come into this recording. But in any case, how have you been? Hopefully, you've been pretty well over the past week. And as I always, I guess will become a standard stipulation. The thing I'll be putting into my recordings is one of, I wish I could hear you and interact and be able to toss some ideas or things back and forth about weekends, weekdays, whatever you want to call it. One of these days I might go again. I think I mentioned this in my last one, but I don't remember. But I ought to try doing something live, just for the fun of it, to get a better glimpse. Anyway, it's almost like I have a fear now that every time I run these, it's always going to come back to the same introductory items, the same introductory business, and all these things that I'll keep saying about how I want to be live, or I want to hear you. But don't worry, I will try to make a note of that. That might be something I could put here. That actually might be a fun idea, because the walls around me are pretty much bare and empty. I'll just get some big chart paper or some engineering size paper, stick it on the wall, and put in big letters things not to say in future recordings of this sort, or whatever I'm doing. I still have no official term for these, and I've been tossing around ideas. Not that there would be anything super catchy, because some of them were simply just uncut audio. That was one of the options. Another one's rolling audio, or rolling tape, or recording, or something of that nature. But I still have to think of something. If you have any suggestions, do let me know, and I will credit you in case you do come up with something that sounds really cool. But for the time being, I'm just calling these, as you've seen the previous titles, I just revised them to add numbers, just some numeration, just so you get a general sense as to when these were taped up in what particular order. Although there is no particular chronological order to them, it's pretty much just to make things orderly, albeit that they generally, I aim for them to be timeless, in the sense that you can listen to this maybe 30 years from now and not even realize it could be like a Sunday in March or February, although this one particularly is being recorded on a Sunday afternoon, technically Sunday evening, but the daylight is still out, so I guess you could still kind of count it early Sunday evening. If it was dark out, I'd probably really call it Sunday evening. But, in any case, that's just what I'm at right now in terms of how I could structure this stuff and make something out of it. So for the time being, it's just been posting it up. Sometime during the week, I'll record something and prepare it, and then send it out and see what happens. Pretty much. That's as best as I can get for now, until I go and find myself back over in Hamilton for the station. But you know what? Hey, I'm not complaining. I feel like I'm doing something. I'm enjoying it too. It's not like I'm sitting here and forcing myself to come down and talk for X amount of time. But it's all right time-wise. Although this one I have a feeling is going to be a little bit shorter compared to the rest. And plus, I still haven't quite established a standard time for which I'd like to keep these going for. They could go for as little as maybe 5, 6, 7 minutes for all we know, and they could go as long as already, like what was the last one I had? I think it was maybe almost 20 minutes, but that was in 2 sections, because I did one section. I think this was the second one, where I did one section in the evening before, or one evening, and then the other section was up an early morning the week following. So that's what happened there. I'm just looking at the clock because I heard my parents called, and they said we'd have there would be a dinner call, because we're actually, again, we'll be eating very soon. But, it was a very productive day we had overall. productive in the sense of, well, lots of time spent outside. And even this past weekend, I got to stroll around downtown in Toronto yesterday, which was a fun time, an absolutely fun time. The sun was out. It was just a perfect day. If you happened to be in the area and you caught a glimpse of the weather and were stepping out maybe for the day, or if you were inside, well, you probably, if you ever saw the outside, you'd know what I'm referring to when I mean good weather. So, I mean, it was cold, and the temperature was a bit bitingly cold, a little brisk, but still, it was good. I liked it. I enjoyed it entirely. I was out in the afternoon. I actually was intending on leaving in the morning, but I never really got to doing that. So, we actually got up late because we stayed up the previous night watching films, really, not just a film, but a couple of films. Usually, as a family, do a little movie marathon every once in a while and watch a few films and that sort of thing. A little slice of my life now you're getting into. Again, this is very candid, just to the element of whatever goes on in the life of Jomar, pretty much. Because you could probably hear everything going on. I'm pretty sure there are dinner sounds happening upstairs and other sounds that are sort of surrounding the area here, but I couldn't really make it out because, again, I got my headphones. If I take these off, though, I might be able to hear a little more. Probably just footsteps. I guess I wonder how much there is. But in any case, it's good. It's good. What else? I mean, I was on a thing of productivity. We just swapped out our winter tires just this afternoon, and we put in our all seasons on one of the vehicles. So that's one of them down, and the other one is due in for that soon. We've just been a little bit hesitant, although a little more sure, because there's been some forecasting of a potential late blooming storm coming up. We're not sure as to exactly how intense the storm's going to be, but we're just going to see, because sometimes nowadays it's really hard to tell. I don't know if you may have ever, if you could relate, I guess, but or it might be applicable in many places, I guess. Perhaps, but, the forecast will tell you something, and, it either becomes much worse than they say or not as bad as they say, and sometimes they don't say something, and all of a sudden here comes a system from the middle of nowhere. So sometimes it's really hard to gauge and tell what kind of weather really will be coming these days. But not so much the meteorologist's fault. It's more of weather's been pretty unpredictable in the past few days. I mean, actually, even more than just days. The past years, actually. Because there have been some where, the snow was not as intense, or the ice storms, or whatever the case was, the cold being not so bitingly cold. It could have just been maybe the mid-negative teens in Celsius, or something like that. But there are some years when those 1, 2, or in this case, the case of this year, many possible storms that came up and hit us real hard. So there have been some winters that we've really had to brace ourselves, and this, I assume, was one of them when there was snow, when the storms came by, but otherwise pretty manageable because it's just cold weather. So, it had its pros and cons and good things and not so good things, but hey, at the end of the day, we're all here. It's almost spring. The papers say it's spring. We're just have to see if Mother Nature really says it's spring. So yeah, it's just kind of that. I do have a hunch that I'm going to be called up for dinner. Let me just put my headphones on, because sometimes I find it better when I listen and try to do these sorts of conversations when I have my headphones on, only because these are plugged directly into the recording device I'm using right now, and it just makes it easier so I know if I'm close enough to the microphone or not too close, something like that. So for the time I just took it off when I was trying to listen to upstairs, I couldn't quite pick out exactly what else there was. But in any case, I think I'll figure that out. One of these days, if I ever do switch into an actual room where I'd be better off doing these recordings, and hey, not bad. In any case, I'll probably take my leave because I believe dinner is coming, but I hope you enjoyed this quick little section of again, just candid talk. Probably the most candid so far, but we're going to find out. I hear them coming upstairs now, coming down from upstairs. So, I'll catch you later.